Hail, TM25MD, back with another video. I know I said I would do an Emperor guide review, but I figure out with the new ML Landy being released, I thought I would do a video on her. So, getting into it, I was able to pull her in two copies, mind you, in 20 summons exactly. So, pretty lucky. I was at 22 before pity, anyways, but I figured I'd hold it just in case I needed to pity her. But I got two copies of her in 20 summons, and both of them were in the same 10 pull, so pretty lucky on my end. Not to insert salt anywhere or to induce trauma to anyone else. But I figured I'd get a review in. And I did have some pretty good success with her in a few games of RTA that I played, with about, I don't know, 70 to 80% win rate. But granted, it was small sample size due to limited games. So let's get into it, shall we? I'll just show off with my stats first, and then we can talk along the way. So this is mine. I could give her a plus 30 Elbrus Ritual Sword, but I figure I'd start small and work up and then give her better gear as we can. So I took some pieces of gear from heroes I didn't really use much that I kind of just had gear holding on. Um, as I said, I got two copies, so I was able to get that imprint. Both are nice concentration and release. Attack is great for her because even though she is one of the highest attacks, um, base attack for knight, is still lower compared to other DPS. Like 1100 is good, but some others have 12, 1300, like Arbiter Vildred. I think Landy might have a little bit more as well. Not 100% sure. Um, Bologna or ML Bologna has, I think, maybe 1300. Not 100% sure again. And then the bulk is also nice as well. So these are the stats I elected to have, was having some speed, basically a speed boot, um, 15k HP, 15 and a half k HP, 15 and a half k or 1.5k defense split. You could have more, you could have less. I did see some people, including notable players like Valky and a few other legend players, Emperor players, run a zero speed, so like HP, attack, defense, boot, whatever. That's not speed, and had some pretty good success with that. As I do think having more bulk is necessary for her to survival because she does win the long game against most comps, standard comps, due to her skill set. Skill set including crit hit resistance for herself and her allies. That pushes the game out slowly. And her increasing her attack up to 50% really elects for a long game. And the coolest part of her kit is, in my opinion, this one right here, AoE defense pen. That's not something you see. So this is basically like her green earth version that she penetrates 60% defense on. I think the green does 50%. But this one does 60, so a little bit more damage. But one thing is AoE stun. I don't think we have any other AoE stuns to my knowledge outside of, what's her name? Araminta? ML Araminta. And that is a very dangerous skill set to give something due to how much control and tempo it provides. Speaking of tempo, increasing her own combat readiness by 25% on a counter or um, Elbrus counter gives her a lot of cycling. And pretty much the only way to evade that is with non-counterable attacks like Green Landy S3, Strays S3, Luluka S2, excuse me, not Luluka, ML Litica, or Flitica S2, etc. Great skills to not attack with. So I may try to throw in a attack, defense, HP boot for more bulk or more damage. I think the bulk maybe preferable, but I found this to be a good bulk, good damage, good attack point, happy medium. Um, I could improve on the accessories, but and I could make this immunity just to get rid of defense breaks from openers, but I think it suffice as is. So those are the gear stats. Decent, but not, obviously there are better out there. 94, 93, 100, 97, and then obviously these are low 90s. These could be improved. I think I can mod this to more attack. So maybe this is like a 93 equipment score, maybe 94. I think I can get 2 or 3% more attack, which comes out to, I don't know, 20 more attacks. Maybe she has 30, 50 attack. So she works well in standard, tank down, slower comps, and she can even work in semi-aggro comps. Like you can draft Celius with her or first if it goes through. Mind you, I doubt it'd be very unlikely for you to draft both ML Landy and Conqueror Lilius, just due to high prio picks in RTA. So as for counters, there are a few notable ones out there. First one that comes to mind is Roanna. Roanna is able to give the enemy team or your team extra combat readiness and healing whenever Landy counterattacks. So that's a big one. Another one, a more offensive one, but I've seen this matchup go both ways in my testing. I've beaten and lost to it. I only played it twice, and I won once and I won lost. And I think the reason why I lost one was due to me misplaying. But I do think it can go either way. And that one would be ML Bologna, always critting on a S3, S2, S1. So she's able to pump out DPS. I think she only wins. I think the matchup can go either way, as I mentioned before, but I think ultimately comes down to comp. If Bologna has more tempo, I think she will win. If the other one is able to sustain, if ML Landy is able to sustain through, she will win in a long fight. So I think it comes upon draft. Um, Also, I've never played it myself. People just didn't draft it against me. It's this one. I think it can go either way because ML Landy has that crit resistance. She has that sustain, and she has the pen. So again, I think it's slightly favored for ML Landy slash favored, slightly favored slash favored, but I think it comes down to draft. And I think that's going to be a common excuse for, not excuse, a common reasoning for how fights go, how matches go is based on draft. But I think as a standalone unit, I don't think there are any truly bad matchups for ML Landy outside of things being awkward or being out tempoed or sustained through Roanna. But I think the sleeper one that I think people may use more, and due to a lot of heroes having passives, would be Archdemon Shadow or ML Mercedes. This skill, the ability to seal and ignore effect resistance, counters things like counters ML Landy pretty well, right? A lot of her kit revolves around that S2 passive. So being able to seal that passive, rendering it useless, I think is quite crippling. And I think ML Mercedes or Archdemon Shadow will be a high prio pick or must ban for those wishing to play and draft early ML Landy. Because this ignore effect resistance can even go through things like ML Luluka, or not ML Luluka, Summer Luluka, rendering her passive useless, and that is a large part of her kit as well. Being able to render Roanna useless Um, so I think she will see more play due to more characters being prized highly early in drafts that happen to have S2 passives. And then lastly, just to take a look
What
at
would you
the
like to
comps that I
order?
use to win and lose. I decayed a little bit. Um, I was on vacation over the weekend, so I went from like rank 830 or 20 up to like 1300. I just didn't play any games, so um, I decayed and got past. Take a look at a couple wins and losses. This one, I think I should have won. One, they banned ML Landy. um, but I think if I banned Edward here, I think I won with a Solitaria. I shouldn't have banned uh, Ocean Breeze Luluka. I think that was a poor ban on my end. So I banned Edward. I think my Solitaria Stene would have just had a field day. Especially because Solitaria would just render Luluka mostly useless with her S2 passive being down. Um, let's look at some wins. This one, I know some people preferred slow, tank down, or standard. This one's more of a standard, maybe higher tempo, but standard to make things simple. Was able to out tempo. This guy drafted weird for an Emperor player. He was high up. He was like ranked 400 something. Um, so he was pretty high up on the rankings. Maybe possibly even been a legend player. But with that banner, I don't think so. Um, so ranked highly, weird draft for fun. I think he just lost by draft, as I said, and continue to reference. Draft diff, first pick ML Landy because that's what I wanted to use. Um, Lethe kind of just gets countered by um, ML Ravi. Um, Koeric and Lilius kind of just shake hands and say, hey, you get to do your thing, you get to do my thing. We'll duke it out from there. And I felt like bringing Ocean Breeze Lula because I think having her into two greens or two blues. Also, if I have ML Lilius, um, I think I can take that away from them. So, plus she also can strip Coeric buffs, and that's what ended up being the case. Landy was good as well. They ended up banning Landy. I banned ADS, as I mentioned earlier. Her power could easily cripple my entire team. I only have one one hero that doesn't have a passive S2. So that just goes to show the power of ADS. It was a must ban for me. Another thing, I showed that one already. Oh, this one. So I got first pick Landy. Common response is taking Conqueror Lilius. They took Yoha. Not sure why. I probably would have gone with maybe like something else. Maybe Yoha is correct. I don't know. I do think she is a good counter to ML Landy as well due to the amount of AoEs. So Arias AoE damage kind of does a lot of damage, is able to be absorbed by Yoha, and she should be able to counter back, in theory. In theory. So with that, I was like, okay, if he's going to do that, I'm going to do two things to punish Conqueror Lilius and possibly punish myself. So I took the Roana as well as an Ocean Breed Luluka. I figured those were a good draft. And then he decided to go full one shot, tank down. It was weird. You see the Dark Corvus, and I was like, okay, so I'll just pick my Injury Rebellion. He also picked Stunny, so I think Injury Rebellion was perfect here. And I figured that he had no reach, so I might as well just take a Landy. And as you saw from my previous video, my Landy is high speed, not that high, 230 speed, full damage, like 300 crit damage, 3 point something K attack, pretty squishy. Heavily reliant on Guiding Light. Um, so that's pretty much how my game plan went, is I got a lot of tempo with Green Landy's push up, plus the push ups I get from Rowana. Um, and I was able to sustain because he had nothing for cleansing. So if my Ocean Breeze Lulika landed a silence and blind, which she did on her key carries, the game was over. So I was able to out tempo there. So yeah, that is all in all my thoughts on ML Landy. Let me know your thoughts as well, if you agree or disagree, especially if you're a better player than me, which I think most people are. So I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. Have a good day.